Not many things make me speechless, but the atrocities that are happening on the Gaza Strip at the minute from both sides are, for me, absolutely abhorrent. It's evil. It's wrong. And the other thing that really gets me is if you call for a ceasefire, you seem to be anti-Israel. You're not pro-life. I am pro-life. And I would obviously want peace, but I'm not coming from I'm not coming from under a rock. I can see what's been going on. I know what's been going on for years. We all do. It's been very clearly reported. Unfortunately, it's very polarised. You're either one or you're the other. You can't seem to be a hybrid of both.
Let's get into
the hybrid
that.
of both for me is peace.
Tell me about the ceasefire. Let's get into that a little bit more.
Yeah.
Because there is a very lazy assumption, as you correctly say, Claire, that if you are for a ceasefire, that's the wrong thing.
Yeah.
People are talking about humanitarian pauses, for example. We have a row in the Labour Party here in the UK where Sadiq Khan, the Mayor of London,
Andy Burnham,
Steve Rotherham, various mayors. We also have Humza Yousaf of the SNP talking about a ceasefire as well. Just unpack that a little bit for us, Claire. Tell us your thoughts a little bit more on why you think a ceasefire actually might be something worth considering.
Well, for me, it has to be considering, and I told you my starting point was from a pro-life point of view.
Would Hamas observe it, though?
Look, Hamas, in my view, has lost all legitimacy as an actor in this. They're a big player in this, obviously, and they have lost all legitimacy in being a political party. They're not. They are terrorists.
Yeah.
And what they have done over the past 2 weeks, what they've done in historical terms, Hezbollah as well, because don't forget this has been funded by Iran. It is just atrocity of such a massive scale. But I don't believe that Netanyahu actually cares for the people of Israel himself. He's a very solid individual who really doesn't care much for life. He is going in there, he's giving the edicts. 10 of the newspapers of this week on my desk are full of the front pages of the atrocities that are happening on the Gaza Strip. What do you expect when people in Palestine have been oppressed for so long? Why not call for a ceasefire? Why not try and underpin and get into and tease out the policies, the differentials, and try and make this two-state work? Have we not evolved as human beings to actually take every point on board and try and come up with a peaceful solution? Am I that naive?
I don't think that's naive, but I do think that it would have to involve Hamas in some way, unless they are completely destroyed, which I think is probably not going to happen.
Well, it's very difficult. It's very difficult. And I did criticise Netanyahu there. So I'm probably going to be, as you picked up earlier, what is the differential between legitimately, not attacking, but legitimately saying things against the state of Israel and against Netanyahu and actually being anti-Semitic? I am certainly not an anti-Semite.
Absolutely not. But it is that question, isn't it?
Or anti-Zionist.
There's so much nuance in this, in that, from my perspective, I am absolutely 100% Israel's right to exist. It's not even a question.
Yes.
It is a legitimate state. The people there I have solidarity with. They've been attacked by Hamas terrorists in the last few years. Is Benjamin Netanyahu a perfect person? Absolutely not. Is he corrupt? Probably. Is he someone who has made huge mistakes politically? Yes. And we can have that debate and we can talk in that way. I want to bring Mike in. What do you think of what Claire has said there? Because it is a stance that we don't often hear on this station, but it's one with which it certainly has the nuance and the intelligence that Claire always has.
I think Claire's right that the incumbency on de-escalating the conflict relies with the Netanyahu government, because it is, within traditional realm of international relations, a recognisable nation state and actor. Very few countries recognise the Palestinian states as nation states as well.
Palestine is not a state.
Yeah, it's
and very few countries recognise it as such as well. So you've got to deal with Israel as the established actor here. It has the infrastructure, it has all the resources of a nation state and the structures, and also, but
we hold them to a much higher standard.
But I think that's right.
But even it is right to do that.
Is that because they're responsible then? Is that why?
But there are other nation states we don't hold to the same standards.
I think we have
I wonder why that is as well. There's a whole issue around that.
I think we have to recognise that within the confines of international law, that nation states are expected to abide by, we call them the rules of war, responsibilities, ethical conduct here as well. Netanyahu has chosen to escalate the conflict by
But what are his options, Mike? I mean, surely if your people are under attack from Hamas terrorists who have killed hundreds, thousands of Israelis, surely, I mean, I'm sure you wouldn't argue that Israel doesn't have a right to defend itself. It's the question, what does that defence look like?
Well, we've seen that
exactly.
This is the issue of non-state actors versus state actors as well, that if, in the Cold War we had a defined, going back, this is something that
warfare.
We haven't yet grasped this, and there is no easy answer to this as well. Unfortunately, in this situation, we have the established body in, the recognised political body in the Gaza Strip is Hamas. They aren't going to de-escalate. I think, and for Netanyahu as well, there is as much underpinning his political ambitions as there is justified self-defensiveness. He's trying to hold a very fragile coalition together. He's just had a period out of office. He has survived as Israel's longest-serving prime minister for a reason, in a very difficult environment. But as you say then, there's a lot of selfish interests underpinning this as well. But more people will die, more Israeli citizens will die, more Palestinian Gazans will die, unless Netanyahu does take that step forward, because, as you said, Hamas aren't going to do it themselves.
And you said that you agreed, Mike, with Rishi Sunak's stance. I don't. I think he was pretty mealy-mouthed, actually, when he arrived. And I don't think he should have taken the stance that he did. He needs to be there to lead Britain and lead us and take care of both the Israeli citizens here, the Jewish people here in this state of Britain, and also the Palestinians that are living here as well.
Claire,
we're all human.
We've got someone who's just texted us to say, just tell Claire Hamas started this by murdering hundreds of innocent people at a music festival. I mean, you know that.
I do know that.
And that doesn't change your stance on this. But what is really interesting was
is it tit for tat? Have we really not evolved?
But a really, really interesting message from Phil Soskin, who's a regular tweeter to this show, said yesterday, people talking about a ceasefire. There was effectively a ceasefire. There was effectively stability in the Middle East until Hamas broke that.
I get that. And I was on with you on the Saturday, the day after that, because it was the 50th anniversary of the Yom Kippur War, remember?
Yeah.
And we discussed it, and my view hasn't changed. It is atrocious what's happened. It's atrocious the fact that Hamas went in. But at the time, they didn't actually give any message, apart from a very violent one, as to why they were doing it.